let's study a new chapter, time value of money. In this chapter, we have the following important topics that we need to cover. Number one, we need to study the concept of future value. Number two, we need to study the concept of present value. Three, we're going to study annuities, including ordinary annuity and annuity due. Number four, we're going to study uneven cash flows. Number five, we're going to study the compounding frequencies and the effective annual rate. Number six, we're going to study the loan amortization. So let's start with our first topic, the future value. Now, before we go on to study the future value, we need to ask one question. What is the time value of money? Why is there time value of money? Now, you are supposed to receive your salary today, but for some reason, your employer approach you and ask if they can pay you a year later with the same amount of salary. Well, of course, you would not like the idea, because if you receive that today, you can consume the money paying bills or buy stuff you want. Or you can save the money in the bank that earns an interest rate. So by postponing the payment, you miss out on the opportunity that you could earn some interest on the salary payment. So this is the time value of money. So the money you receive today is valued differently than the same amount of money you received a year later. So that's why we say there is a time value of money. Now, there are some important concepts that we need to get familiar with. Let's look at our example. Suppose we can save $100 in a bank account that earns 10% compound interest every year for 3 years. Now, after saving that money for 3 years, how much money will you have in that bank account? Well, first, finding the future value of some cash flow or series of cash flow is called compounding. That's a process of compounding. Now, finding the present value of a cash flow or series of cash flows is called discounting. So finding the future value is called compounding. Finding the present value is called discounting. Whether you are looking for future value or present value, the best practice is always draw your timeline. So on the timeline, you will mark your cash flows at exactly when it happens. So in our example, you're going to deposit $100 today and save that money in the bank account for 3 years. Every year, that money will be earning 10%, and the interest rate is compounded yearly. So after 3 years, how much is the future value? And on the timeline, we have our $100 deposit at time 0, and then we're looking for the future value after 3 years. How do we calculate our future value? Well, it's a process of compounding. So first, let's take baby steps. Let's solve the future value step by step and using the formula. So to solve the future value after 3 years, let's solve the future value after we save that $100 in the bank account for 1 year. So 1 year later, how much money do we have in the bank account? Well, we saved $100 for 1 year, which earns 10%. So 100 times parentheses 1 plus 10%. And